What's up, YouTube? It's Joe Cachapalia sitting on the couch making some money investing in fractional real estate online as usual. Today I'm going to talk about doing flips from the couch. We're going to talk about Saul's Lot. They have a new DAC up. Um, they sort of rebranding the way he's talking about this. He's saying the first flip is ready on the new network, right? So their MetaMask and the base wallet. It's really the same product, right? They're doing the same thing. I think he's sort of shifting his focus a little bit to instead of doing, providing this service to just sort of retail homeowners that need to sell their home and need some cash. I think he's focusing a little bit more on investor deals and people that are doing light renovations. Um, I don't think it changes a whole lot for us from a business perspective, but it does make me want to dig in a little bit more on the due diligence. I'm going to share some of that with you today. Um, he also mentions that you can make secondary offers now. So I didn't realize this. So the DACs that you buy in the meantime, I think we can trade those, which is interesting. I didn't realize you could. That's probably just me not getting everything that's going on. You can tell the site has a whole new look, different logo. The It does seem like it has a few kinks that they're still trying to work out. When I try to open my dashboard today, it hung up for a very long time. Um, One of the things I like a lot about Matt is like you reach out to him and he responds right away. Whether you reach out to him through Twitter or on his Discord, or even if you ping him in our Discord, he's been pretty quick to answer questions in there as well. So he responded right away and said, "Yeah, I'm going to work on that. Hopefully, we'll get it fixed in the morning." So I don't really know what's going on there, but a little bit of a hang up. I don't think it's stopping anyone from buying these though, because there's already 34 sold, only 166 left. Um, Remember, I know we've been waiting a long time for one of these. You don't fall victim to FOMO, right? Like just because if you miss this one, there's going to be a next one, and you want to just make sure that you fully understand what it is you're buying and you dig into this ahead of time. So what are we? If you don't remember, because it's been a while since I talked about Saul's Lot, they just haven't had. I mean, I mention them from time to time, but they haven't had a new one of these available in a little while. What you're basically doing is now my cat just really wants to hang out now that my video is going. What you're basically doing is buying a piece of the equity of the home. Um, and it's what's called a forward sale. But I think, and if you look at the documents, and you should read the documents and really endeavor to understand it. I'm just giving you a really dumbed down description of what's happening. Basically, this owner is planning to sell in the future. They know if they get a little bit of cash today, they can finish some renovations. And so they plan to sell at a higher price in the future. And so because of that, they're willing to sell you. You're basically paying for the equity today, or a discount from the future value on this one. So when we look at the appraisal, you're going to see there's a hypothetical condition that the property is, the renovations are complete. And so basically we're looking at a appraisal that's giving us the after repair value. I'll show you, what in the appraisal led me to believe this. It's written up a little bit funny, but I'm pretty sure that's what they're doing, because they also mentioned that they did do an as-is appraisal. That's one of the things. If they're going to be in the habit of doing both, I'd really love to see both. For me, I always just want more info than less. One of the reasons it's a little bit different from a lot of the other deals that we're doing is what you get paid when this sells doesn't really have anything to do with what it sells for. That appraisal is what's determining what the sale price is. And then if it's held for a certain length of time, there'll be a new appraisal and a new market value that will determine what the sales price is. So it isn't a lot of what we do. So the due diligence I'm doing for this, it looks a lot different from what I'm doing on other properties, and it's actually, it's pretty truncated, right? I'm doing quite a bit less because of the nature of the deal, right? We're basically just taking, uh, we know when it sells. So the real risk is if it sells, right, or when it sells. But we know that when it does sell, there's already a certain amount of money that's what we're expected to get. And today we're paying a discount, a specific discount to that amount. Man, I don't know. I feel like I'm butchering the explanation of this. Hopefully that made sense. But so this is the property, and you have to click on this more details. Don't just click on invest now. I know you want to buy one, but let's find out about all the details first. Tells you a little bit about the property. Oop, there is even more details in this. Where did I see them? I feel like this was an issue for me before too. Oh yeah. So when we click on the view all documents, yeah, that's what, okay. Do that, we get to this details page. Um, yeah, you've got the address, the size of the home, when it was built, the 3 bedrooms, 2 baths, the current mortgage, because there's a mortgage on this property, and we're buying a piece of the equity, or they're selling us a piece of the equity that when it sells, we're going to get paid a little bit more for it. So our position is behind this $260 or $260,000 mortgage. Um, if you click on the financials tab, it sort of explains what's going on here. So for this one, this is the total amount that's being sold, and it's being sold at a 12.28% discount. They show the fee that's being paid and our purchase price and the total number of DACs being minted. This order book, you see, this is where you can see the actual sales or the offer date, status paid. So I don't know. To me, I didn't really look at that, but the documents tab is where the real action is. I opened this and I already have each one of these open. So this is what's protecting our interest, right? It's what's called a performance deed of trust. It's basically like well, it is, it's the same idea. When you have a mortgage, that mortgage is a deed of trust. And so this is basically saying it gives us similar rights to enforce our position, even though we don't have a loan. We're still able to enforce, that's what gives us the ability to, if we're not getting paid, to take over and sell the property. There's an assignment of leases and rents I noticed in here, but you really want to read through this whole thing. I mean, obviously, you guys remember, I'm not an attorney anymore. I'm not here to tell you what the legal documents actually mean. I'm just giving you a rough idea of what this is for, right? Because it's not a document you see all the time called the performance deed of trust. Like here in Texas, when I do owner financing, I'll get a deed of trust and I'll get a note. This word performance, I believe this is thrown in here because it isn't related to a debt. It's actually related to uh, you know this other contract, and it's to ensure that you complete that contract. I'm actually not 100% certain that's what it is. I'm really hoping Matt ends up seeing this and answer some of these questions, or somebody who's more knowledgeable about this whole setup. I am trying to get him on our upcoming Fractional Friday, so hopefully we can work that out as well. And Matt, if you don't know who Matt is, I think I mentioned him already, but he's one of the founders of Saul's Lot. Um, he's the one I've interacted with. He's the only one there that I've interacted with, and uh, this seems like it's really his baby. I know he's mentioned that he has another founder, but I don't know who that is. Um, so let's see. And then this is the actual um, agreement, right? The assignment of rights, the forward sale. Actually, this is what's like creating the interest that we have. One of the things that's happened a couple times, and I've typically emailed him, and he's been able to send me one that's clean. But when I pulled this up, this section that has all the terms in it, it seems like it doesn't come through right sometimes on here. And like last time I asked him and he sent me a one that had all the stuff filled in correctly. Like here we don't have an effective date. And then like it seems like a couple of sentences, like this sentence got cut off. This doesn't seem like the right amount. So I'm going to ask him about that. Hopefully I get that back relatively quickly. The gross amount of money you receive. Yeah, so this seems like it's just cutting it off, and I don't know. He mentioned it had something to do with the way when they're uploading it to here. I mean, you can kind of just tell like it's just not fitting in the table right. So hopefully you can get us one of those relatively quickly where those are corrected. It's a really dense document. Understanding what's going on here. Um, this is one of the things that I think you're going to have to just decide, like, are you comfortable with this business model or not? What I did is I just started doing very small amounts of money for the first couple, and I will build up my business over time with it. I mean, I believe I understand all these documents, but it is pretty complex, right? And so if I were going to put a ton of money into this, which you really can't right now because there's only, each deal is only so much money, and there's not a whole lot of volume just yet. Although it sounds like he's expecting to get quite a bit of volume sometime soon. But if I were going to really invest heavily in this, I might have my attorney read through this for me. That might be something that'd be worthwhile, because it is, it's a as much as it sounds simple when you describe the transaction, it's not like a everyday transaction that you'd experience just as a regular person in the world doing real estate deals. Um, and then he gives us the appraisal. And so this appraisal is, this is where that value comes from, the 350,000. Like I said, I believe this is supposed to be the after repair value. And that's why when we get paid out, the payout is based on this value. And again, when it sells, it doesn't matter what they actually sell it for. The payout is based on the appraised amount. Um, and that was something that really confused me at first before I talked to him about the model. And it's like, oh well, it seems really risky. What if they sell it for 340, right? And then all of a sudden I'm getting less. He's like, well, no, you're getting paid out based on the appraisal. Um, and so note this as of date, because I'll show you something later that makes me think, um, that they did it as is appraisal too. This is one of the things, we've noticed this on other platforms where the client, I don't know what this Cedars of Lebanon Inc. is. Um, I'd like it to be, I'd like the entity that we have, right, that has our interest be the client for these appraisals. Um, in this scenario, I'm not sure that's realistic because so this, the person who actually bought the property and is renovating it and that we're buying, is doing the forward sale to us, is also doing a financing transaction, right? They're using a lender. And so what I think might be happening is we might be piggybacking off that appraisal, right? They got appraisals done and we're using them. We're not having a separate one done here. Again, Matt, if you're watching this, please correct me if I'm wrong on that. That's what I think is going on, but it is, it's a little bit different. I guess though, when I get ones when I'm purchasing, I'm usually my lender's the client, I think. I don't think it's usually actually me, or sometimes we're both listed. I know for sure sometimes we're both listed, but it is typically the buyer's lender's appraisal. So I don't know, but that's not us, right? Because there is another lender involved, right? That $260,000 mortgage. So I wanted to mention that because I have pointed that out a lot with some of the other platforms. What's different in those instances is we are just the buyer in that instance, right? And so there's just absolutely no reason for us not to be the client, like in the lofty DAOs when we're buying. But on here, because of the nature of the transaction, maybe we won't ever end up being listed as one of the clients. But something I'm going to ask about because I'm sort of interested. Which reminds me though, please like and subscribe. In the description to this video, I have links to all the places where I'm currently investing in fractional real estate online. Please do your own due diligence on all those platforms and on any properties you see me buy on any of those. Just because I'm willing to buy on there doesn't mean that you should. We might have different risk profiles, definitely have different timing concerns and all sorts of things. So yeah, you want to always do your own due diligence on those. I also mentioned our Discord in here. In the description to this video, there's an invite, and it's just a generic fractional real estate investors Discord. We talk about all different platforms. There's a channel for each. Feel free to join that and jump into this conversation. If you have answers to any of these questions that I bring up, feel free to put them in the comments, put them in our Discord, wherever you think. There's people talking about it anywhere, I think. So let's see. What did I want to show you on here? So, the appraisal is pretty straightforward as far as like, let's see. It's the intended use of this appraisal is for the client to gain knowledge of the market value. So, I mean, this is why I want to know who that client is, right? Because of this intended use. But let's see, this is where I want to show you where, yeah, see, here is a little bit funny when they are describing the property. The subject property is represents a home with proposed renovations. So here's what first made me think this is supposed to be, a hypothetical condition, and these are the things that they're doing. And said upon completion, it'll be in very good condition. This is what made me think it's a after repair value appraisal. But then when we get down into the assumptions is when he actually just outlines this is my, you can see here hypothetical conditions. I think I might have said extraordinary assumptions, but it's the hypothetical condition that those repairs are done. And so, yeah, he's got it here. Additional comments, scope of work, that this appraisal has been completed subject to the proposed renovations, including list what those renovations are. So completion of an appraisal, implementing, and just let you know, like, okay, well, because this is a hypothetical that stuff's done, it's going to affect the value, right? But so he's saying after repair should be 350, right? That's basically what I'm getting from this appraisal. But when you look at this, they also have to disclose, like, if they've done other appraisals on the subject property. And that's where I saw, oh yeah, we've got the pictures. So see, it doesn't look like it does in the picture that we saw just yet. So I don't know why that is. But you can see, like, when he was there, this work wasn't done, right? It's obviously in progress. Where are we? I really thought that I saw it. I hope I didn't pass it up. These are all our other subject comps. I am going to go through the value a little bit. Appraisal report. Yeah, here they say, okay, these are things that they're required to let you know. And so they're saying, okay, we did an interior and exterior inspection on this date. This is the same date that's the date of the appraisal. And an as-is opinion of market value was provided as of that date. So if they did it, so to me, I'm reading this to say that they also did an as-is appraisal, and I'd love to see that because if you think about, okay, they have $260,000 in debt. We're looking at our loan to value, right? Of course, we want to look to the loan to after repair value, but I'd also like to look at what's the loan to the current value, right? If we have an appraisal that says today, for example, before the repairs, it's only worth 280, well then, all right, we're upside down in our position. Now, I don't really think they're creating $70,000 in value with what they're outlined that they're going to do. But I just always want more information if they have it. And so if they have an as-is appraisal, uh, I'd love to see that, right? I think that's helpful in understanding, like, okay, if the current owner didn't do the repairs and we did have to move forward and take the property and sell it, you know, how much room is there if we just sold it as is versus us finishing that project, right? It's just the thought that I have there as far as, like, to be extra careful. I understand why they're giving us the the after repair value appraisal because that's what we're going to get paid based on. But I think getting the as is appraisal, I don't know. I'd like to see it. It would make me feel better to know that with the current loan and the cash we're giving them, that we're not exceeding 100% of current value or something like that. Um, and so what am I, because of what we're doing here, I do a lot less due diligence. Like, as far as, like, what the market's doing, I'm not thinking about holding this long term. It's just, okay, it's basically like thinking about this as a flip. And so I want to look at, well, what do the third party sites think as far as value, right? Like, obviously, um, we have the appraisal, and that's what is going to determine our actual value. But I want to see, like, is that, if all the third party sites said, well, really 250 is the value, it would make me worry that you're going to be able to sell it at all, right? And if it doesn't get sold, then you don't get paid based on that appraisal, because there's not the money there. But so Zillow had 360,000. That made me feel real good. I liked seeing that. Um, Realtor, gives you the 330, 500, but they really give you all three of these, right? So they give you But all of these look real good. That's kind of interesting. I thought that I don't know why these are so far back. And oh, this is why. Oh, this is interesting. So collateral analytics dropped it down to 241. I'm guessing that's because they picked up that sale. So, but the other two were 330 and 355 because this property did sell for a lot less money because they bought it to flip it, right? So, um, but anyway, those two values I felt pretty good about that. And then what are we on now? Redfin gives us a really, really good range, right? So, okay, I felt pretty good about that. But then the other thing that is going to really matter on Saul's Lot is how quickly we sell deals. Oh, I'm on the wrong thing here. So if you think about, okay, we're getting it at 12.28% below the appraised value, which like when go the other direction, it's like a 14% profit. Um, but that's the same amount regardless of how long it takes, right? So if you get that in 2 months, annualized, it's 84%. But if it's 4 months, it's 42. And if it's 6 months, it's 28, right? If it takes you a whole year, then you get the 14 annualized, right? That's so one of the things that's going to be really important when we're investing in DAX on here is understanding how long it's going to take for this property to sell. Well, one, there's going to be a certain amount of time for them to finish the work. So, like, we'll have to think about, okay, what is the work? What's that scope? Obviously in the appraisal, you could see the pictures that they had a lot done already, and they're, moving forward, getting more complete. So, uh, but understanding that timeline would be super helpful. I wonder if they have, um, that'd be something that would be interesting to include in here, right? Like what that timeline for the sale looks like. But then the other thing that I think is really important is just looking at the market and seeing like, okay, how many homes are for sale, and how many have sold in the last certain period of time. So what I did, I went on homes.com. I just did really broad filters, 300,000 to 400,000, just single family homes. This is all the inventory on the market that exists. It's 28 homes. And then I did a similar search, same parameters, 300 to 400,000, just single family homes, sold within the last 3 months. So in the last 3 months, 10 properties sold that fit that description. Currently, there are 28 properties on the market that fits that description. So like this is one of the things that we do a lot when we're listing properties and trying to help clients understand how long it might take to sell. So at the moment, if we're selling 10 homes every 3 months and we've got about 30 homes on the market, it means we have about 9 months of inventory on the market. And so that's quite a bit, right? I mean, that means, that's like normally, if you have like 6 months of inventory is when I usually think of that being the dividing line between it becoming a seller's market and a buyer's market. So once we get to 9 months, it's really more of a buyer's market. Um, if I were going to invest heavily into this DAC, I'd probably spend more time digging into, okay, which sales actually took a long time, right? Like, were there some just really rough properties that sold slower? Because you can actually see, like, okay, what are the days on market on each of these? So, like, this one was only 2, but this one was 170. So, I'd want to dig into that, figure out what's going on, um, to really understand. This one took 117 days. Like, okay, but who wants that? I can't stand when you have these cantilever uh, second floors. So, maybe that's part of your issue there. But that's one of the things that I would do, right? Is go through and really think about like, are there ones that took a long time that dragged it down? And then the other thing I wanted to look at, okay, where's our home in this market? So it's right here, which is like right around here. And you can see, okay, none of the sales were near this home, and a lot of the inventory is. And so that worried me a little bit, right? If you look at where there's a lot of inventory, this is one little clump. There's a clump down here. There's some there, and then obviously here. But when you look at the sales, mostly here, a little bit here. So, it does make me wonder, is this going to be a slow sale, right? Because if this takes 9 months to sell, it's still not a bad return, right? I mean, honestly, If it takes us a whole year, your downside is, or your expected return is 14%. If it happens to sell quicker, then you're better off. At the moment where there's one available, I think that this is a matter of like, is this something you want to start investing in? Do you want to try this out? And that's kind of the boat I'm in. I've just been buying. I think I've bought a piece of every one that's come up since I started, but just bought little pieces of ones I didn't feel as good about and bought a little bit more of others. I'm really trying to understand just the dynamics and how it works, because it is. I mean, it's a very unique product, right? But as they start to get more and more product on the site, this is how, if I'm going to start to be more selective, that's definitely how I do it. Maybe I'd pass on one that might take me uh, a year to get my 14% if it starts to look like there are a lot that we can, that are, that we expect to sell quicker. The other thing, this came up when that new construction one or the newer construction one was on here. Matt actually mentioned this to me and it made a lot of sense. He's like, well, yeah, this is, it's only a couple years old. There's a good chance it's going to sell, much less of a chance that there's going to be inspection issues. Well, yeah, I mean, if we have this home built in the 1950s, even if they're doing a cosmetic renovation, although they are going to replace the water heater too, it looked like. But, you have the issue of, is there going to be an inspection that derails the sale, right? So it's one of the things that I'll start to think about, as obviously, it's still a very new site. They have to really ramp up their volume before I can start being picky. But I can be picky in the way that I could just say, I'm not going to buy this one, or I am. I'm going to get a little piece of this one. I will wait until make sure I've got all the right answers to the questions that I have that are outstanding. But it is something that, at the moment, it's not something that my real estate experience is really like. Like when we're buying stuff on Lofty or Mogul or Arrived, it's much more, the experience that I have is much more useful to like look at that property and figure out, is this going to be a good investment property? Here it's a lot different because it's just a matter of, okay, how much do I trust the appraisal, right? Well, and it's not even because like I don't have to trust it in the fact that I just know I'm getting paid based on that appraisal. So it would have to just be so far off that we're just not going to get a sale that would yield enough for us to get paid. But again, we know the total capitalization is 260 plus the 24,000, and so you'd have to have you'd have to be really far off to not get there. And this is the setup that he's had for all of these so far. I think he's limiting the total loan to value, and I guess I wonder if in all cases it's that after repair value. I'll have to go back and look. I wonder if I missed that on some of them. Some of them were just already just ready to go when we bought the DACs, but some of them, I think he had mentioned he's going to have more like this, where because he's got a good pipeline of, sort of these light renovation where somebody is going to use it basically as gap financing. I mean, this is the part of this product I'm really excited about. I think there's such a huge need for this. I think you'll see flippers and investors use this all day long if they're a little short on cash or they just want to make their cash, spread it across more deals. I can imagine this just really taking off. Um, it's one of the reasons I'm excited about it, right? Because I can just see from the actual need on the other side of this deal, that there's going to be, I think, unlimited demand for the capital. And so, at what price, I don't know, right? Like as long as we're able to continue to do it at these types of discounts, I think it'll make a lot of sense, right? So I'm hopeful that this will be one where he'll be able to ramp up, the volume quite a bit, and then yes, I'll still do some due diligence and I'll be a little bit picky about like try to pick ones that I think are going to sell the fastest. Um, One of the things that I think will be interesting and I'll start to want to ask questions about is, okay, how much work does need to be done? I mean, it's in that appraisal, but like, do we have a timeline? When's that expected, right? I mean, I think that would be useful to know. Is it in this 81-page document? Maybe. I don't think it is. I mean, it does tell you like the term, like we have the term of these. Let's see, is it in here or it's on the other one? It's going to take me a little while to really get used to, yeah, flip length. So this says 12 months. I believe that is not like an estimate of how long it's going to take, but that's actually like how much contractually, how long they have before we're allowed to do something to try to make them sell it, which obviously, I mean, their goal is to sell it anyway, but maybe they're holding out for too high of a price and we can, force them to lower the price or something. I don't know. That's it. It's good. I think these are the reasons I actually want to talk to Matt again and just like ask him a whole bunch of questions, because the more that I dig into these, the more I start to wonder about different things like this. But anyway, if you know the answer to any of these things, if you've asked some of these questions, feel free to put them in the chat or in the Discord or in the comments to this video. I think that's really it for today. Somehow got super lucky, didn't have the thing freeze at all, so that's fantastic. Tickle the like button if you haven't already. I'd like you to poke the bell today if you poke it. I think some of you have the bell thing going, because I've noticed when I post these, somebody watches like right away, so that's exciting. Maybe it's like a bot or something, but I appreciate you guys watching. And this is one that I mean, you can tell I'm excited about this product. I really hope Matt's able to execute it the way he has it envisioned, because it seems like it has the potential, to just really broad appeal on the other side. And if that does happen, then that gives us a lot of investment opportunities on this side, right? And something that like my average return so far on the ones that have sold has been fantastic. Some of them, I've got a couple DACs now that I've been holding for a little while, but I mean, some of them sold extremely quickly, and then your annualized return on those are unbelievable. And so I expect once it gets up to scale, that I'll be able to have a blended rate that is a pretty impressive rate. But the only way to find out is to keep doing it and see where we get from there. So anyway, that is it for me for today. Until next time, I'm just going to keep making mistakes so that you don't have to.